Welcome to Cityline, Senator Nobles.
Thank you. It is so great to be here with you again. In fact, this morning I was on the phone with Carol Mitchell, so she sends her hello. But I love being in your company, and I look forward to discussing my new journey as senator.
Yes, and I have to tell you, Carol Mitchell, I stand on Carol Mitchell's shoulder. I would not be here if it weren't for her guidance and her leadership. So Carol Mitchell, you are my hero and my inspiration. Tawana, you, school board, CEO and president of Tacoma Urban League, mom that makes it look so easy with little ones all the way up to tweeners. What motivated you to run for office?
Believe it or not, I was motivated to run for office freshman year of high school. When I was in foster care, my foster father was an elected official prior to me moving in with them. And that's when I first learned that you could not only serve your community, but if you are competitive like I am, you actually have to beat someone. Your community has to believe in you. You have to motivate and inspire others. And so I was motivated in ninth grade, freshman year of high school, to run for office one day and just have pursued that journey up until this point. My undergrad is in US politics. I started volunteering on campaigns. I was a campaign manager. I first ran for school board, and I ran for this office because my community had been asking for a while and simply wanted change as our district has continued to evolve.
I will throw my name in that hat. We all wanted you to run. It was just like such a no-brainer. And obviously, Senator Nobles, you have accomplished what you set out to do. What surprised you the most about your first session on the Hill, as they say?
Two big surprises. One, how smart and competent my colleagues are. There are so many folks serving in our state legislature from around this state who care deeply about community on both sides of the aisle. And they have the most amazing life experiences, professional and personal. And it was really cool to hear those experiences come out in their testimony or working with them on committees. And also, I was surprised at how bipartisan this work is. Everyone asks, how are you going to work across the aisle? And I'm like, 90+% of the work that we do is bipartisan. We run and support easy bills that have Republican and Democratic support. And there's a tiny slither of bills that really come down to party line. But this work is bipartisan. We work as a large body to serve the community. And I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, and you are so qualified for that, because I don't know, you are a handful of women in Tacoma, you're one of them, that instantly brings people from different backgrounds together, and then they all kind of row in the same direction. So you have that intrinsically. So as you applied that to the bipartisanship in your first session, what are your top 3 accomplishments?
Yeah, well, collectively, I think we made some really big investments in community. One bipartisan accomplishment was passing the Working Families Tax Credit. That was huge, and that will help our families who have some of the greatest need. Another major accomplishment is how much work and emphasis went into our K-12 education system, everything from broadband to a bill that I sponsored, removing the pledge for the college-bound scholarship, or another bill that I sponsored, providing a point of contact for all of our youth experiencing foster care at every single school in this state. A major emphasis on investing in education, but also police accountability measures and investments in behavioral health were major accomplishments that we focused this year. And I did my part to pass a data collection bill to help with transparency around use of force data. And the state will have a statewide database that requires our law enforcement agencies to collect use of force data and make it available to the public. And I also passed a couple of bills related to community and behavioral health. One having more to do with domestic violence, a non-fatal strangulation bill, and another decriminalizing our community members who are struggling with their mental health and providing mental health resources instead of prison or jail.
Gosh, I want to go, that's all. Jeez. Senator Nobles, did you sleep your first session at all?
Listen, I typically am a good sleeper. I have a pretty good bedtime, but I will say, I hope this is just a first session symptom. I would wake up in the middle of the night like, oh my gosh, did I email this person about my bill? I have like this first session was, very, very hard.
So as you know, I like many people love and admire your story. You know, you defied odds, homelessness, foster care. There's so many, you are so self-made, but along the way, you have talked about the reason why you give back is because people gave to you. That leads me to this question of who are your political heroes?
Yeah, I have to give credit to Black women. Because when I lived in homeless shelters in Alabama, two of them in particular, one was called the House of Mercy, another was called Each One Reach One. Both of them at that time were ran by Black women who took me under their wing, and I got to see Black women run businesses. Black women show compassion, show empathy, lead in their community, take care of others. And that really taught me the importance of entrepreneurialism, but also how to be a leader by taking care of others. I also want to give credit to the Black women who were my educators in Alabama, my teachers who were also members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and inspired me to join that sorority because I wanted to be graceful and intelligent and caring like they were. They inspired me to become a teacher. And then also, you know, moving here and meeting amazing role models and heroes like Mayor Victoria Woodards, who allowed me to be her campaign manager and work on her campaign. But I'm also inspired by folks I've never met before, like Stacey Abrams and her philosophy of how important it is to lead from the outside, or once you're inside systems, to learn those systems well enough for you to understand how you can create rules that will work for you and work for community.
Ooh, you just said something that was really amazing. The rules that will work for you and work for the community. So let's jump into how on earth did you develop relationships with other lawmakers and community members, especially during a remote session? I mean, because you're brand new.
Yeah, well, the rules of engagement are, this is relationship based, you got to get out there and meet people, but this was a pandemic. So I could not play by those rules, but I did, you know, some smart things like invite folks to jump on Zoom calls, participated in a few group texts or Zoom happy hours. And I took advantage of opportunities to connect with leaders who have simply served in the legislature longer than I have. And so I kept a list of questions at every turn, simple questions like, why do we say this? Why do we do this? How does this happen? You know, what is this formality for? And I would sit down with folks like Senator Billig and ask those questions, or Senator Dingra and ask questions. But I just took advantage of those little pockets of time because I had to jump right in and get to work. So no one had a lot of time for me and it was all virtual. But I took advantage of the virtual space to try to get to know my colleagues and be open and create time outside of our day-to-day, you know, making laws. But I look forward to being in person and building those relationships with folks. But I think just via email initially, trying to listen to their stories. I did a lot more listening than speaking for sure this first session as a way to, you know, get to know people and learn more about their stories so I could follow up with them and ask them about their child or their sick father. And I participated in our weekly fellowship meeting every single session throughout the legislature. So folks who identify as, you know, believers meet Tuesday mornings early in the morning. And so just participating in those identity groups, or like our Black Caucus group, our Members of Color Caucus groups, but however I can be a part of a team, I try to engage in that way.
I love that. So I've noticed something about you, that feedback, I would say, is your middle name, because you receive it so well. You ask for it so well, and you open yourself up to it constantly. And so how did you receive feedback from community members while you're trying to, you know, find the light switch to see your colleagues?
Oh, community is not shy in the feedback arena, and everything from, why are there so many eyes in your newsletter? And that actually, I did not take as a negative criticism. I actually talked to my team because I have a PIO, a public information officer, who works on a lot of my communication, as well as my legislative assistant and myself. But I said, you know, this person has a good point. I want people to read my newsletter and see it as a resource for them. This is not for me. I don't need to be like, I did this, what did we do? what did the community help to do? What were some of the conversations that we have? What are resources that exist in our community? But, community members via email provided a lot of feedback, a lot of encouragement as well, but a lot of great questions that helped us to reflect on our process because we're new. So we are just figuring it out. And I have never met some of my team members. We've only been in this virtual space together. But community was very vocal about bills that they wanted to support, bills that they were against, ways that they want their representatives to show up, the challenges that they're facing in our community. And it really helped to guide our goals and objectives for our office, and we'll continue to do so moving forward. But there was no lack of feedback from community. And, some of it I, purchased, some of it I rented, some of it I just had to say, no, thank you. We're going to have to agree to disagree, but all of it was welcome.
I loved your Facebook group messages about some of your projects, and you asked people their opinions. And I thought, that's Senator Nobles. She's always right in the middle of the people going, hello, what do you think about this? So I was overjoyed to see you reach out like that. How do you balance out all your different responsibilities? And I want folks to know that you are still, I believe as we speak at this moment, the CEO and president of Tacoma Urban League, and you have built that to amazing success. And you're also Senator Nobles. And as I mentioned, you have also a family you take care of. How do you do it?
Yeah, well, one major thing that I do is say no. And I think this question is really important. So thank you for asking it, because folks would not believe the number of requests that I receive to pick my brain for one-on-one conversations, to have coffee for professional reasons, to represent the district because of Urban League, meetings for my kids, just fun stuff that people, want to do. And sometimes I simply have to say no. And I've been using language for folks of like, I'm managing my capacity. And so I won't be able to do this. In fact, I told my office, we are a part-time legislature. And I don't know that the entire state realizes that. We're not full-time legislatures. We serve during session, but we don't have to necessarily do a lot of additional events outside of session. But of course I will, and many of us do, but I came off a big campaign and my first session. And so I'm needing to recharge now so that I can balance all those things. So I want to just do laundry and just prepare a meal and make breakfast. I'm not good at cooking, but I just want to do it because I want to focus my time there. I've scheduled all of my appointments and went to get my first haircut in 14 months, but I have to prioritize those things. And sometimes it is saying no and figuring out what I need to do now and what can wait until later.
Oh, beautifully said, because I got to tell you, I'm someone that I love politics and I love to watch every kind of session. And I'm also someone who notices when someone's looking like they are just burned out because they burned it at both ends too much. So I love that once again, you are learning from those who went before you about what not to do. Tawana, how do your constituents get in touch with you?
Yes, please visit my Senate website. I'm sure it'll be listed on the screen, but you can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, follow our official Senate accounts, but I also have a legislative page through the Senate Democrats, and you can just search for my name, Senator Tawana Nobles, and our office will happily serve you.
I love that. My dear, thank you so much, Senator Nobles, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Her busy schedule. And thank you for saying yes to us. If you would have said no, we would have understood, although I would have tracked you down. You know that. So anyway, thank you so very much for all that you've done for us. Get some rest, and I'm going to have you back on soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and I'll see you soon.